Good evening. My name is Ben Mellish. I'll be giving a presentation this evening on the role of social media in revolutions. You'll have to bear with me. I'm having a few audio-visual problems in this hotel room that I call a home. So let's jump right in. Authoritarian regimes, ruthless dictators, merciless riot police, they all cower before, who could it be? It's Mark Zuckerberg. Let's take a look at this imposing figure here smiling away at us. So this is Mark Zuckerberg. He's the founder of Facebook. As you know, in recent revolutions, people have been leveraging Facebook and Twitter to get news out in a quick and accurate manner. And I'll be looking into that a little bit this evening. So I'm going to start off with a couple of recent examples, Egypt and Libya. I'm going to ask the question, is the role of social media overblown in these revolutions? Since we're talking about the Web 2.0, basically, we're going to talk about Government 2.0 and when Government 2.0 goes bad. And then I'm just going to close out with an interesting way to measure crisis using Twitter. So let's go right into the recent examples, Egypt and Libya. We'll start off with Egypt here. Egypt, the little comic up there says it all, revolutionary tools, AK-47s are a thing in the past. Facebook and Twitter are what they're using now as their tools. So as we know in Egypt, the traditional media state controlled. People use blogs and Facebook to organize their groups and organize protests and riots, things of that matter. They also are using blogs to spread news. They're using Facebook and Twitter to spread news about what's going on in an accurate fashion. So that's not state controlled at all. So when the riots started to heat up there in Egypt, what the state actually did was they went ahead and they shut off the internet, which led to services arising like Speak to Tweet, where you could actually call outside of the country, leave a message, and it would eventually be tweeted for you. That started off as, just calling your friends and asking them to tweet stuff for you where they have internet access. And of course, since you didn't take the phone lines down, people could always use their traditional dial-up modems to access the internet. So what we're seeing here evolving in Egypt is that Facebook and Twitter are being used to fairly good effect to help aid in these revolutions. However, it does seem like there's a more elegant solution that's needed, a more specific tool for people who are actually under an authoritarian regime or under a corrupt government, that they may need additional tools to create these revolutions. So same kind of deal in Libya, Facebook and Twitter. They call for a day of rage. They block Facebook and Twitter. The Gaddafi regime blocks Facebook and Twitter. They impose internet curfews and the internet goes dark. But the revolution is still going on. So that begs the question, is the role of social media overblown in these situations? And I've gone to the liberty of doing a little bit of terrible research to try to shed some light on this question. So what we have here is millions of Twitter followers. So the Dalai Lama, 1.59 million Twitter followers. He's preaching compassion. That's good. We should all be following the Dalai Lama on Twitter. We should all also be following the White House. It's politics, we should all be interested. We should all want to know what our government is up to, and this is a great way to gain insight into that. Bill Gates, we all have to interact with Microsoft software. He actually does a lot of outreach too. He's a great guy, and he's forming our future, whether we like it or not. So we should want to know what Bill Gates is up to. So from there, who could be more interesting than Bill Gates? This is the guy who's making all the software we use all day, every day. Who would be more interested in than him? It's Charlie Sheen. That's right, Charlie Sheen, who does drugs and spouts inane babble, is more popular. But the question is, who is the most popular person on Twitter? Who has the most followers? It's got to be somebody of great political standing, someone who's done just great things for this earth and has absolutely critical things to say at every moment of the day. Who could it be? It's Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga has over 9 million Twitter followers. So the question of whether social media is overblown here, I think there's something concrete about that argument. I think in general we have Facebook and Twitter to sort of entertain ourselves. They're not really revolutionary tools. It still boils down to the people and their desire to be out from underneath an authoritarian regime. So as you could see from the previous slide, we can follow the White House on Twitter. We can friend President Obama on Facebook. And we got the first glimpse of what this is, which is called Government 2.0, which is the government leveraging Web 2.0. We got the first glimpse of this with the Obama text message campaign, where we would get text messages about Obama's, where he's going to give his speeches, and he would text his speeches to us. This was great. We got some transparency into the government. When Obama got into office, he actually went forward with transparency initiatives. He put up websites so we could see how the government's money was being spent, and right now we're currently in the process of implementing that open government. On the flip side of this, what we didn't totally understand about what Obama was doing with these text messages, he was also gaining information about who's following him, how many people are following him. And this is when the government goes bad. So basically the government is using these social media tools to gain information about us where it should be private. So for example, I friend Obama on Facebook. The government now has access to all of my Facebook information, which includes my birth date and, let's say, my hometown. Well, recently I took a trip to Mexico, so what the government sees is my hometown and my trip to Mexico. But what I don't realize is that the Drug Enforcement Administration is investigating a drug ring that is being run out of my hometown. Obviously a drug ring from Mexico. So now all of a sudden I'm on a government watch list, even though all I did was take a nice little trip down to Mexico. So that's just a sort of an example of how the government can leverage Web 2.0 in bad ways. Basically, there's privacy issues there that we need to be aware of. So I'm going to close it out with an interesting case. It's basically this is a still picture of the Al Jazeera blog. There's a link there to it for anybody who's interested. What this is they call it a dashboard, and what this is a measure of tweets, basically hashtags for Bahrain, Egypt, Libya, and Syria and Yemen. So you can look at the last hour, the last day, the last week. What you can see here is interesting. About 4 days ago, there was a big spike in Egypt, and what it turns out that corresponded to President Mubarak addressing the nation and denying that he did anything wrong. Obviously, this outraged the people in Egypt that he would stand up there and make such comments about his regime. So you can actually pinpoint interesting things. People are also using this, like if you would do a hashtag search for Japan, you could pinpoint when the earthquake hit. There's also graduate students doing research into using Twitter to predict the stock market, of all things. So some interesting things coming out of Twitter there. Basically, I'm going to close it out now. Another little cartoon here. Little Mubarak soldier there coming after, getting chased out by Facebook and Twitter. Little swords there with the locals. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and have a good evening.